of you know on the Howie and Beastmode podcast, we come from a faith background. So we love business, strategy, growth, and execution, as well as career development, but we do come from a faith background. And although we don't overtly talk about that as much, we actually have something that's pretty encouraging that Beastmode shared with me today that I thought we should just share with all of you that happens to have a faith and business aspect to it. Beastmode, what do you got?
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit in our prep about gifts. You have a particular gift that God gave you, a foresight, seeing things in advance. But some of you may have been given a gift of wisdom or knowledge, boldness, whatever it is. And oftentimes we can use those giftings outside of for. But what's up, Matt?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Where's your mom at?
She said she is about to get on in like a minute.
Okay.
I called her out. Well, she reminded me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, let me get on right now." I got home a little while ago, and so I'm good to go. She's like, "Oh, okay, then let me brush my teeth." I'm like, "No one's gonna." Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna smell your breath through Zoom.
Right.
She did call you out though last time. She said you were supposed to be here and then you weren't here. So
yeah, I don't even remember what was happening. Oh, you know what? My sister was moving. We were helping her move all day Tuesday. So
okay.
I get a pass.
Yeah. Hey Belinda, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's good.
Just got off work.
Okay. Well, good. Well, we are glad you are here.
Yes, me too. I missed y'all last time.
Yeah, it's okay. You can always go watch it after the fact. You can jump on YouTube and see what we talked about. See the whole group.
Okay.
So we'll give everybody another. Somebody was just on and then they popped off. So see if they're going to come back.
Okay.
But Matt, why don't you? I know a little bit more about you than everybody else because your mom sent me a big email. But why don't you share everybody? You know who you are, what you do, and what really brought you to the group.
My name's Matthew Guevara. So you guys probably know my mom, Leslie. But so for me, for the last 3 years, I have kind of turned more of a hobby into something I want to do more full time and as a business. And I do photography. And
Very
so
cool.
with that, so starting in 2018, there was a lot of life that happened that kind of made me go that way. But to make it a little more simple, in 2018 is really when I told myself, like, I really enjoy taking pictures. It's really fun for me. And so I figured I'd just start charging for it. At the time, my full-time job was roofing with my dad. And it's really a little difficult. It's a little difficult to work with family sometimes, especially if you don't have defined roles. And so it's just kind of it was a weird situation. But that happened for about a year. So I worked with him through 2018 while trying to do photography, which honestly, the good part of that is it led me to be able to have the flexibility to do photography when I wanted. And I say that only because, me and my dad, I think, are similar in the sense that we're free-spirited kind of people. And so, like, if we don't have work starting in front of us, we're not gonna do anything. We're just gonna have a little too much fun. But other than that, through 2018, I did it, and then 2019, I kind of stopped working with my dad, and I needed some consistency in my life, more consistent pay and income, mainly because I had a second child. So I have two kids, one who's 4, his name is Samuel, and then I have a daughter who's 2, and her name is Anna. And so Anna was born in 2019, and when she was born, I felt like I needed to have more consistency in pay. Obviously, working with family, it's hard when your father's the owner and he's like, I can't pay you tomorrow. I'll pay you on Monday. And it's just like, well, I'm having a second kid and I need to be paid. I can't, I need a consistent job. And so I got a job working in furniture sales because I like talking with people. I did that. But the hard part is that was retail. So you have to work all through the weekend, and those were amazing times to take pictures, right? Those are great times through the weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. People want to take family photos and do things of that nature. There are a lot of weddings that happen on Saturdays and Sundays, so I didn't have the opportunity. So for the last 2 years, I haven't pursued it as much. And then more recently this year in 2021. Also, 2020 sucked for photography because for the people that I had scheduled, almost everybody canceled. Up until November, really, November and December of last year, it started to pick back up. But this year in April, I stopped working in retail, and I'm doing some roofing just to have some consistent income a little bit. I'm doing it with a different company, and so now I've been able to open up and do a lot more photography, and and so I've been really hitting it hard, and I feel like I need kind of like a good base of people who work hard in their business and kind of have ideas and whatever to be able to kind of bounce things off of. And obviously this is a lot more than just brainstorming stuff for businesses, but it's kind of setting things right for small businesses and stuff like that. And so I just figured, my mom told me about this, and I figured I'd give it a shot and see how things are. I'm also studying for real estate as well. I'm doing that because I really honestly I do hate roofing, because I hate knocking on doors and begging people like, hey, listen, I know you don't want another roofer at your door, but can I get on? I just hate that part of it. I think more comfortable on the phone. I've done some phone sales a little bit before, and I don't mind calling somebody up and saying, hey, listen, man, let me sell your house. Let me give me that shot, and you won't regret it. And so I'm right now in the middle of doing that as well. And so just got a lot going on,
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that we are glad to have you, and thank you, Leslie, for being a vision carrier of this group and sharing what's going on. So thank you for that. So I was updating Dennis earlier before everybody jumped on. Actually, Leslie, will you open us up in prayer since we didn't do that? Just real quick.
Yes. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to gather here. And thank you for having us come with open hearts. And Holy Spirit, speak to us, show us what you have for us. And community is what you've intended for us. And I thank you also for having my son join us, dear Lord. Show us a clear vision of what you have for our life. And let this session be, amazing as the rest have been. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Wonderful. Okay, so Matt, so really the format is, and it's a little different because there's normally another person. His name's Brian Howard, who leads with me. As I was sharing with Dennis earlier, Brian had to be out of town all of this week for some kind of surprise training and things like that. So he's in Denver. So we talked last night about our discussion points, what we're going to talk about. So basically, I'm going to present what we're going to talk about, and then we'll just kind of spend some time. Everybody will just kind of share some dialogue, and really the Holy Spirit just kind of leads it. It's really cool how it works. If you want to share, you share. If you've been too quiet, often, I'll ask you if you got an opinion, and then we just kind of go from there. Around 8:10 or so, we stop obviously recording. We stop our live stream. Right now we're live on Facebook and YouTube. That way, those who join us that way can ask questions or things like that. We'll drop all of that, and then we'll have a time of just prayer. We'll just pray over anything that you need. And so if it's personal, you can share it, and we'll pray for it. And Brian and I have seen some pretty cool stuff happen from this group. So that's what this group is, and that's what we're doing. So last time we finished our conversation on sowing and reaping. And so if you missed that, please go check it out. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it. If you want to listen to it, It's on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else that you play podcasts. So go check it out if you haven't. It's also much more consolidated. It's only about 20 minutes as opposed to an hour and 15 with the group. Tonight, Brian and I have been doing a little bit of a podcast series on invisible and valuable. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And it really got spurred on by a podcast that I was listening to, and it was talking about leadership, and it was talking about the way that Christ led, and that if we're looking for visibility, oftentimes we're looking for value, or we feel invaluable, and so we're looking for visibility to validate what we're seeking. And so really what we're talking about is the perspective on how to be a good leader is to be invisible, but provide value. And so first and foremost, we want to focus on providing value. Let the value be what's visible. And then ultimately, if your face, if your name goes along with that, then that's wonderful. But ultimately, each of us, in whatever environment it is, and we've been talking about relationships, how even if it's just from a husband to a wife, I want to be more visible in my spouse's life. And so what do I need to do? Instead of trying to make myself visible, I just need to provide value, and that person's going to want to see me. If I just do things that are valuable to that person, then that person ultimately is going to want to see me. And so if we do the same thing to our teams, whether we're on a team at work or whether it's to our customers, you provide value to your customers, ultimately your customers are going to want to see you. And oftentimes the value goes first. And that's my mantra. You provide value first and allow your customers to come to you and validate the value of what you've been distributing. And so that's kind of the invisible part of it, that we want to be invisible, but there's also that other side of it that if, we want to be visible, we want, Jesus tells the disciples that if you want to be great, he didn't say, don't think that way, or it's wrong to want to be great. He said, if you want to, then you got to serve, you got to be humble, and so, and that's really where the going back to being invisible. So if you want to be great, that's wonderful, but you need to be invisible, and you need to serve, and you need to provide value. And so that's really what the basis of our conversation is going to be on tonight. We're going to pop in with a couple of scriptures from here to there, but what's your guys' initial thoughts? I'll start with Dennis. What's your initial thoughts on invisible, visible, value?
I think that's the right perspective. They don't have any super specific thoughts at this moment.
Yeah, very cool. What about you, Matt?
I mean, I think in general, I think coming from the roofing industry right now, just because that's what I'm doing right now, roofing and photography, in a very saturated market, it is hard to convey value, really. It's hard to convey value because you have a lot of other companies doing similar value, at least giving similar product. I mean, as a roofer right now, I can't tell you that my shingles are going to be better than, the business who's competing for me, because we get the same shingles. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to place that value, and you have to, I think, in a small business, or any business, you have to find what makes you valuable, what it is to value, and then convey that to who you're trying to sell to. So for me, in photography, I value my personality, really. I mean, obviously my eye is going to be a little bit different. I have similar style to some people, but drastically different than others. But again, it's a saturated market, so I think value is very important, because it's not like you don't have there's nothing new under the sun, right? essentially, kind of thing, where, in the case of my mom, there are going to be, 5 other organic toothpaste companies. What's the value of hers? Well, the value of hers is partly her, because there's nobody else like her. You know what I'm saying? And so she's selling you on it. Obviously, I've used the toothpaste myself, and there is a big value to it for sure. You know, it, I've recognized the times that I haven't used it, and I've noticed the difference, and the value that you can convey there is also testimonials that brings value to it. So if I have somebody who, like today, I was knocking on doors earlier today, and I had somebody who's like, well, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to use you. And I had to convey the value of, hey, I have my company. We have over 500 5-star reviews on Google. And the value is what we can provide is the service. I'm going to put the same roof on as, T-Rock Roofing or anybody else, or GP Roofing contracting company. We're going to put the same materials up there, but the quality of work that we do is going to be better, and the quality of service and communication you're going to get better. So in general, you have to build the value. Sometimes it is hard. You just have to find it.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a lot of small businesses that feel the same way, and oftentimes my response is generally not one that individuals like, but it is you're basically going to give things away. And so really that's my example. So like with JL, the company, the small company that I run, we basically give everything away. We tell you what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And if you want to do it on your own, then feel free, because I'm going to provide you the value up front. You're going to see it. And then ultimately the goal is that, you filter yourself out. And so oftentimes with roofing or something like that, it's the same way, where you just say, hey, this is where we're at. I'm going to do the same thing as this guy. This is what makes us different. This is what I would do, and then you just provide the value up front. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. You don't need to jump through all these hoops. But what about you, Leslie?
When Matthew was speaking, it just made me think, like, apples to apples. It's sometimes difficult to try and sell yourself, I guess. I don't know, because I'm not much of a salesperson, but I think for me, when I place someone at value, because I want them to know that I value them, I give them time, right? My time, my honesty, and but it's since I'm not a salesperson per se, I hope that in my case, my toothpaste would speak for itself. But you do have to be out there. People have to know that you value them, and I've given like free product. When you said, this is what I can do, I've given them, the free product, in hopes that they can see that the product is also valuable, not just the person that, we want you to trust me, the company.
Yeah.
But it is, it's, I like what you said, to customers, a team, to people, provide value and they will want to see you. And it's so true, because when you don't provide value or keep communicating with them, they forget about you. One lady was telling me, oh yeah, I want to order a toothpaste. I wanna. And I completely forgot about her. And I messaged her last week and I said, hey, sweetie, how are your beautiful teeth doing? She's like, oh my gosh, yes. Can you send me some toothpaste? And so I think value also means kind of touching base with them, at some point, send them an email, send them a text, send them a message, say, I'm here. I don't know, but this is provide the value up front, I think is what you were saying. And it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Piggyback off that a little bit. I guess from just a personal experiences that I had, I'd say in May, the first week of May this year, we had a pretty bad storm, hailstorm, and I reached out to a few people. I had reached out specifically to this one lady. She was actually she was retired Air Force. She was in the Air Force for about 15 years. great lady, single mom, amazing. When I first reached out to her, I knocked on her door. She didn't answer. As I was leaving, she pulled up, right? And so at the very beginning, it was kind of a weird, because she was like, "Who is this? Who's this big Mexican dude coming at my door? This is kind of weird." And so I just waved at her. I was like, "Hey, do you mind lowering your window? I'm just leaving my card for you." Kind of did the whole spiel. And so she was like, "Okay, well, I appreciate it. Well, I'll think about it." I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to come back to you." And so it was the consistent, um, the consistency of, I came back. That was like on a Monday. I came back on Friday and said, "Hey, Miss Mary, I'm here again." And so she, I left my card. She didn't answer, and so then it was just consistency of communication, following up, things like that, to where by the end of the May, she signed up with me, and I had gone every single week of May, sometimes twice a week. Even when she wasn't there, I would leave a card and write on my card saying, "Hey, just following up again with you, Mary," leaving it there. And so it was, I think, I never even thought about time. Time is value. Showing that you gave that time shows the value in the work that you do. And once I finished up her property, she said, in the middle of everything, it took there was about 2 days where you forgot to communicate with me. But then you got back right with it and everything was fine. But the reason why I chose you to do my job, my work, is because of how consistent you were. Honestly, you continue to follow up, you continue to communicate. Like I didn't, there were a couple of guys who showed up twice and they stopped showing up because I'm a very busy person, right? I'm very busy, because right now I work full time, but right now my daughter's about to get married. And so I am so caught up in the wedding time right now. And so the fact that you continue to show up, you continue to follow up, showed me that you wanted to work hard for me. And so that giving your time is definitely, because I was giving my time all month for free. Because at that point, I didn't have the contract. At that point, I didn't put the roof on. At that point, I didn't get my commission check. With that commission check, that was like, $3,500 worth of commission. So I was happy on the back end of it, right? But I had to show the value of what I could provide was consistent communication and my time to her.
Yeah, and ultimately, the value is the value to your customers, or your team or your superiors or whoever it is that, again, we're wanting to be visible to. Again, you could take this to the house, whether it's, I want to be more visible to my kiddos, I want to be more visible to my spouse, whoever it is, what do they value? That is what's most important. And again, you guys have both given examples of, you value your time. Well, oftentimes customers or team members, they value their time too. And so the more, like, you can just tell me what it is on the front end. And so I run into this all the time where people want to give me their time because it's valuable, right? I want to give you 30 minutes of my time, and I want to help you out. Well, for me, it's my 30 minutes is really valuable. And so why don't you just explain everything that you're going to explain in 30 minutes in an email? And if it's valuable enough to me, then I'll give you my 30 minutes. Just tell me all of it. All the details, everything that the hidden secrets, just tell me all of it. And then if it's good, you're going to get my time. You're going to get all of it. And more importantly, you're going to get resources that come along with it. And so that's where we have to be cautious. And you see it all across platforms now, where some people will put content out there that's valuable, like, "Hey, I got this going on, I got this," and then you'll see people respond, they'll comment, and they'll say, "Well, how much is it?" or "How long does it take?" or whatever. And everybody's comment says, "DM me," or "Give me your email." And you're just adding more steps. If I can just give all that information on the front end, the person who's my customer or the person who is going to be visible, then they'll just grab it, right? And what happens is you end up losing people throughout that process because we're making people jump through hoops and we're not just giving the value. And so the example going back to Christ is, again, John 3:16. Christ gave from the very beginning. I don't know where the scripture is off the top of my head, but there's a scripture where it talks about this was God's plan from the very beginning, was to have Christ die for us. And so he did it from the very beginning. He gave long before we said yes to him. And so it's just giving all of it on the front end, whether it's to a team and you're looking to be maybe a team leader, or whether it's you're looking for promotion. And so you're just giving it all to the company, to the customer, and then allowing them to receive and then buy in back. That's really the kind of revelation that I'm personally getting with God in what it pertains to business and life and everything like that. Belinda, what do you think on all that? You're muted if you're talking. I can't tell. We'll come back. What about you, Dennis? How do you? Oh,
Okay.
sorry. No, go ahead, Belinda.
For me, I know that making myself, sometimes it gets to me, but I have to sell myself because I'm the only person here. And, you know, people call me or they'll drop in and I have to sell. I just feel like I have to sell myself to them to trust me, to let me groom their dog or babysit their dog. And they can go look at reviews and, you know, I'm just, since it's only me, my time is so valuable to where if I'm, I don't take walk-ins. So if somebody pulls up and I already have a full day, it's, you know, like that will put me behind, you know. We want them to think they don't want their business, but you know, sometimes they get that feeling and I have to, you know, like damage control. Like I didn't mean that, you know, it's just, you know, I am busy and I don't take walk-ins, but I appreciate coming by and, you know, they want to know all about it and what I do and what I charge. And you know, so it's just basically selling myself, my business to them because I don't helping me. And then, you know, talking about giving someone your time, when you said that, I know my husband, he when he wants to show me something, he says, "You're always in a hurry or you're always busy." I am always busy, but you know, I need to make myself more valuable, or you know, let him have what is it? I need to give him more time. Like he wants to show me something on the computer and I'm like, I'm not interested. I don't want to see that. You know, I've got to do this and this. And he goes, just give me 10 minutes of your time. Yeah. Okay. 10 minutes. And it's normally something that I'm not even interested in. You know? What does that mean to me? You know, like clips. Look how much I get these for. And he's a mechanic, you know, so he's mechanically inclined and he likes to make stuff. And I said, okay, well, great. If you think they're going to work, then buy them. You know, you don't have to get approval. Well, I just want you to look and I want you to listen to me. Okay. So I felt real bad about that. I'm going to have to start giving him more time or just let him talk. You know?
Either that or he needs to provide the value to you so that you want to spend the time.
I mean, but it's hard. You know, I work out of my house, so you know, I have 7 dogs. Well, I had 7 dogs, but my little dog, one of my old dogs, she was 13 years old. She passed away, and in all, we have 35 animals that we have to take care of.
Wow.
So our time is very, I mean, it's, you know what, we only got 12 hours of daylight. So, you know, you can't work outside when it's dark. So we have to feed the horses, feed the goats, feed the chickens, clean out. And then, there's just a lot to do. So that's why I always say, my husband says, I want 10. But well, okay, what is it?
Yeah. Well, Dennis, what about you? Whenever you're as a leader, and you're leading teams or you're leading organizations and you're wanting, let's say, to get somebody's attention, maybe there's a proposal, something that you've put out there that's not getting visible for whatever reason, or the visibility that you want. What do you do to provide the value to get it mainstream, to get things going through the circle, or what's popping up in your mind?
I think the most vivid example is actually the advice I got over a year ago, that the mistake people make during the job interviews is that once they come to the job interview, they sort of try to present themselves, right? They try to present their credentials, they try to present their experience, they try to present kind of all the great things that they have under their belt. But at the end of the day, the companies that they hire you, they mostly don't care who you are. It's just a proxy for what kind of value they're going to get for their business, right? They need problem solved, right? They need money. Having the rising star on their staff means really nothing to them. Means really nothing to them. And kind of the best way to get an attention of the company is to say, look, guys, I've made some research on you, and it appears that this is the problem you have, and this is, I think, how you can approach. I'm going to give you some free advice on the job interview, and that immediately changes the perspective, right? So the company no longer needs to kind of assess how bright of a star you are, so that once you're on board, now all of a sudden, like, you bring the value and you're like part of the team, and they can harvest something out of you. They get not this secondary value, but they get the primary value, that they see that you not care just about being there and kind of giving 40 hours of your time, but you actually care about their problems. You care about what they have to solve, and you're going to solve it to them. You're going to give them the advice how to solve it, even if they don't hire you. And this is one of kind of the best advice how to get attention and how to eventually get the job.
Yeah, I love it. You're providing the value on the front end. You're saying, I value you. That's why I did some research. And then at the same time, I value your time. That's why I'm not wasting your time and telling you, you need to call me back in and let me talk to the COO. I'm just going to pass it along if you want to, but here's what I would do. Here's a problem that I see. This is what I would do to fix it. And if you value me, then this is where you're going to get, and again, same thing. It's all front and center, where you're just give. I love it, Dennis.
And this is what they want at the end of the day, right? So if I'm a customer and I'm buying something in the store, I don't really care about how great of a marketing campaign the store has, right? And how this and that, or like, I care about the product being the best, and everything else is just a proxy. All right, so when I'm buying an iPhone, I actually need a great phone. I don't really care what Apple is. Like, I take Apple as a proxy, so I know that the company that is innovative, that has done kind of all this great stuff, that has this long history of kind of consumer excitement, it's going to be a good proxy. Then once I'm going to grab this iPhone or iWatch or whatever the case may be, I will probably get a great experience. But at the end of the day, I don't care about Apple. Like, I don't care at all.
Right.
Give me a bland like brick, as long as it works, as long as it gives me what I want. That's totally fine without having an Apple logo on it. And I think people get it backwards. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to give my brand, I'm going to do marketing, I'm going to do that. at the end of the day, this is just a proxy for your customers. If you can excite your customers, customers don't care about your brand, they don't care about your marketing, they don't care about how you look, and they don't even care where you exist.
Yeah.
So that's
So
kind
they-
of nice and simple.
Yeah, totally right. How's it going to benefit me? Just tell
Yeah.
me how it's going to benefit me. What does it cost? What's the ratio? Whatever it is, just tell me all of it up front.
Yep.
And you know, I'm and as a customer, especially nowadays, I'm smart enough that I can make my own decision. I don't need you to show me. I don't need you to walk me through it. Just tell me all of it. And you know, and the more, and what I have found in business, and again, this goes back to relationships as well. The more that customers or individuals feel like they have to find information out, I have to dig to get the information from you, the less that I trust you, the less that I want to do business with you, the less that I feel like you're keeping secrets. You know, whenever it's, you know, hey, I need you to call me to get this information. Why do I need to call you? Can you just tell me? You know, obviously you're responding. Obviously you see me. You know, can you not just give me the information I need? You know,
Give me my
and so,
but this time
but it's one of those things that we have to be customer focused. We have to think on their perspective. And a lot of times, like Dennis was sharing, we think on the other end. We think, what, you know, this is such a great idea for me, for the brand, for this, and I'm doing this. And the customer or the team member or the superior, or like you said, the individual hiring, they could care less about that. You know, they're looking for specific things. And so, Matt, what about you? We'll swing back around to you, see what else is churning in your brain.
I think I'm trying to figure out when you were talking about more of like an invisible being, kind of like an invisible force or purpose or something like that. I find that hard when it's like I think I'm probably similar to Belinda in the sense that when, for like my photography, I'm the face of my photography. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the pictures that I take speak for themselves, but it's hard to be like an invisible force when I'm the only one.
Right. Right. So let me give you an example. So for me, if I was giving some advice to a photographer who was looking to grow and things like that, looking to get more business, and you're the face of things, what I would do is I would start telling people, this is the best place to take pictures around town. This is where I go. This is the angle I'm looking for. And you start giving them the value. This is what real deal photographers, they don't look for this. We're looking for this. And so if you want your photography to look like this is what I'm looking for. Here it is, free of charge. And then what happens is they go try to do it. It fails. And then they call you and say, Matt, I tried. Your advice is awesome. It does look great, but I can't do it. So I need your help. Yeah. What's your fee? And then there they go. They've already bought in because you provided the value. And same thing for roofing. You know, I know this because I had a roofing client. Is I just told him, I said, hey, you just need to give people the images. You're able to pull the images in advance of their roof. Just pull the images and just leave it on their door that says, here's your damage. Call me when you're ready. I don't need to get on there. I don't need to talk to you. Here it is. Feel free to make your own decision, but here you go. And a lot of times his response was, well, it costs money on the front end. I get it. But this is saying, I value your time. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell you your damage. And if you already have a roofer, wonderful. But if you don't, now you do. And so that's, and you're setting yourself up as a differentiator in the market when everybody is doing a similar thing, like you said, Matt. So,
yeah. Well,
but again,
and that makes sense. Well, what you were saying is, especially on the photography, and I've noticed some of that on social media recently. I follow a lot of other photographers on social medias, and some of them who are starting to get a little bit larger of a following are literally starting to make small promotional videos of like, hey, do you want to take a picture with your loved one? Well, if you're taking a picture with your phone, don't do it like this. Do it, and then they actually explain, put this setting on your phone, take it like this, do it to the side, and they literally go through kind of what you said, go through it, and then it'll look a lot better. And then all of a sudden, you know, within 2 months, I'm starting to see some of these photographers that I followed for a few years now. They're growing and starting to get larger, and I didn't even think of that. That's good. No, yeah, that's very good. Showing that value and all that.
Yeah, because oftentimes if you just show, and let's just stick with photography just because you're chatting. So if you just show everything that you do, look how great my photos are, look how great I am, it comes across negative to me as a customer. Like, you're just showing off to me, man. You know, and you actually see this with a lot of big companies, and Dennis can probably attest to this, where they make commercials, and their commercials are all about all the awards they want. Right? Look at all these awards. We're going to unfold all these things, and all they are just awards that they won. Hey, we won this, we won this, but they never say we won this because we care about you. The only reason why we fought for this and we spent the time, effort, and energy to win this award is because your safety matters. Like, they don't ever spin that. It's all about me. And so when you watch those commercials, you could care less because it's just you showing off your trophy case. But if you spend it, you know, and made it about the customer and said this because we value you, then it's totally different. It comes across different. So, any thoughts, Leslie? You're doing a lot of head nodding.
So I know this is all amazing because I find myself in that spot right now because when do you know, like, if I put value, because I'm real passionate about my product, right? And I put value in it and I know it's going to help people. How do I know when to walk away? Because it's not like they could care less whether they can use Crest and, you know, they're okay. Like, how do I know so I don't get my feelings hurt? How do I know, okay, Leslie, you've already knocked on this door for so long, you know, because I see what Matthew does. And when do I move on? I mean, you put value into both your product and the person that they need it, right? When do you know, like, okay, let's move on? I guess never. I don't know because I don't stop. I continue, and I'm thinking they're going to keep going. And I don't know if it's the denial that I don't want to get hurt. I don't see why I want to get hurt, or I just believe, you know, until they really try it, they'll know how great it is, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I'm at.
I'm going to give you a short response. And then I think based on my response, I'm hoping Dennis has a very detailed and methodical response because that's who he is. But so like Dennis was sharing about providing value. And I know Dennis personally, and I know that he had a long job search, just like Howie did all of last year. And so I know the value that Dennis provided for a lot of people who didn't receive him as an individual. They received the value, I know they did, but they didn't receive him. And there's a point where you got to say, that's okay. Now, for me, I do it all day, every day. And so I provide all the value up front, and I'll have customers, potential customers, who will just say, no, thank you. You know, and I don't argue. I just say, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I move along. And I allow them to self-filter. You know, I don't want to put a square peg through a round hole. I don't want to do that. So they're going to filter. That's great. You know, not everybody's my customer. Thank you. But from what you were saying, how long do I do it? Part of it is, again, I need to provide the value that the individual wants. So again, if you just start listing out all the different ingredients, people buying toothpaste probably aren't looking at that. But what is the value? What's going to move the needle? Is it long-term care? Is it about their kid? I mean, again, moms and kiddos and their toothpaste is totally different. And so again, if you get in the market early with kiddos, maybe they become a customer for life, you know, and then that's how you're going to grow. But Dennis, what is your thought on Leslie's question about duration and really about kind of breaking through that barrier?
Well, so I can only give feedback from kind of my personal experience, right? So a lot of people approach me with kind of different sales pitches, and I can definitely tell that on some sales pitches, I remain undecided, and I can remain undecided for years, right? So some things they sort of like look interesting, but I'm not really buying into them. And for some things, I have decided I don't want. Like no matter how hard you try, unless God makes some miracle, I don't even want to hear about it. So for me, a really good proxy is whether I'm still willing to listen to you, right? And if you are the salesman and I give you 2 minutes of my time, then just keep selling, right? So it might be just another couple of weeks before I say yes. But if you're a salesman, I don't even want to listen to you, then definitely give up, right? And so I think the kind of the question is, should I give up on the prospective customer or not? The answer would be very vague, but if the person is still willing to listen to you, if the person is still willing to communicate, and you have to understand that at least in my case, the time is valuable. So if I'm willing to listen to somebody for like 2 minutes, I'm actually given valuable time. It's not free. Like my time is not free. So if you're a salesman and I'm willing to give you 2 minutes of my time, keep knocking. If you're a salesman, I don't even want to listen to you, then give up. I mean, this is kind of my personal feedback, my personal threshold. So I guess with other products, it works as well. If potential customers are still willing to take your call or like read your email and say, yeah, okay, thanks for the advice, then keep knocking. If you're being completely ignored, then, well, just move on and kind of find somebody else.
Yeah, and there's always that mantra of maybe they're so for me is you have kind of the individual of they're not your customer. You send them something, you provide excellent value, and they just say no. That person is just not your customer. Okay. Then you have the individual who just says not right now. And so you have a follow-up where you set a follow-up in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, whatever it is. Or sometimes they'll just tell you, hey, follow back up in 6 months. And that's where you're like Matt, and you're hey, you asked me to follow up in 6 months. Here I am. I'm ready to go. But Dennis, what about more on the actual business side? So like if I know from like the acquisition side. So if you're going to acquire something, it needs to fit in a certain parameter for me to consider it. Whatever you have may be an excellent deal. It may be an excellent opportunity. But if it's not what I'm looking for, I have a specific formula. Or if I have this, and that's really where acquisitions, they do a really good job. They're saying, this is where my target market is. This is what I'm looking for. Anything that fits through this equation, that's my customer. If it doesn't, I'm out. And so that's where, for me, is you have that filter, and anybody who goes through the filter initially is still in your customer base. If they bounce out for whatever reason, they're not your customer, right? And really only God is the one who decides how wide that net is, right? How many are getting through and how many aren't, and again, for me, I don't even argue with people. So like if I provide value and they disagree and say, so like one of the things that I do is I'll share a value of, say, this is the type of content customers enjoy. Try to make your content look like this. And I had somebody today tell me our content looks like that. And I was like, no, it doesn't. But I don't argue with you. You think your content looks like that, then you're telling me you're not my customer, right? And if I try to make you mine, then again, it goes into trying to force that square peg through a round hole. So for me, I don't waste my time. Now they may come back in 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then recognize, hey, maybe I do need to adjust my stuff, And then for you, I mean, again, you're putting your toothpaste out there and they say, no, I think Crest is fine. And then all of a sudden, 6 months from now, something happens, or they read an article, or they have a friend and that's going through something, and then they remember and they come back to you, because you provided the value on the front end. They don't have to then call you or try to find you. But Dennis, did I hit that right?
Yeah.
From the acquisition side about narrowing. I mean, they know, for what I'm looking for is a small. And so I'm not going to entertain every little thing that looks good, smells good, sounds good. Right?
Well, that's right. And I mean, in business, in acquisitions, it's there is a natural threshold, if you will, which is the money, right? Typically, what happens is that the kind of the target company and the acquiring company, they just meet together, they make some additional due diligence, and then the target says, well, okay, this is how much I want, and the acquiring company says, this is how much we are willing to get. And if they're miles away, they just typically walk away. And if they sort of feel that they're in a ballpark, that this is where kind of negotiations start going into the next phase, and like the deal happens or not happen. So in mergers and acquisitions, there is this natural kind of indicator. And if this indicator, and it's very quantitative, it's kind of very easy to see. It's a little bit more difficult in consumer products, because there is not always a specific number that the customer is willing to pay, because as negotiation classes tell over and over again, that the value is very subjective. There is no such thing as kind of a market value for a particular car. There is a value that a willing person, kind of having resources, is willing to is willingly want to kind of leave on the table. And it may be that the number is much higher than the market value, but if the customer is happy, then, well, guess what? That's the market value. And if the customer is not happy, then guess what? That's not the market value. Yeah. So in mergers and acquisitions, it's a little bit a different story, but yeah, you definitely got it right.
Okay. Well, good. So really what we're thinking on tonight is that we all want to be visible in some capacity to someone, to some industry. We all want that, right? And so really the second part is why do we want that? And so in mine and Howie's conversation that we had last week is, do I want to be viral on social media or have my name great? Because again, that's what Jesus was talking about. He says, leaders of this world have, want their name great, and so is it about me? Is that why I want to be visible? Is it about me? Or is it because in business, for Leslie, God's just given me an amazing product, and it's all about the product. And the more the product grows, God, the more glory you get. It's all about you, and so if I accompany that, then wonderful. But ultimately, it's about you. Then there's a difference in the heart, and there's a difference in the ask whenever you're asking God, to bless the business, whereas, there is, I want to be seen because I deserve it, or I've worked really hard. And so it's about me, and there's a different heart towards that. And so that was kind of one of those icebreakers that we want to make sure that everybody understands, that we all want to be visible to someone, a group of individuals, at work, to a customer. We want that, and that's okay. But we want to check our heart as to why. So when that comes up, just like Jesus says, if you want to, Dennis, if you want to make your name great, okay, you do it this way. Leslie, you want your toothpaste to sell 100 million? Wonderful. This is the way you do it. Matt, you want to be the #1 photographer, in the US? Wonderful. This is the way you do it. You give it away. And it doesn't mean you give your services away, because again, we all got to work, we got to pay bills, we got that. But and we talked about this actually when we talked about wisdom, is that wisdom, which is basically our gifts in business, that is intended. It's not intended for us to to get, receive, and hold on to and keep it in a box. And you gotta, if you want it from me, then there's a certain cost associated. Wisdom is just like anything else. It's just like resources to God. And so if he blesses us with wisdom in photography or toothpaste or dog grooming abilities or whatever, a lot of that is it's for us to share that wisdom in advance and then allow people to receive on the back end, And so it kind of goes into our sowing and reaping, how we talked about last week. I don't think anybody on today was here last week, but we talked about how in the Bible, when it talked about harvest time, there's a portion of the harvest that did not belong to the individual who did the work. It belonged to those around them who needed it and couldn't afford to do the work. And so that's the heart behind kind of where we're coming from with the giving. Is there's a lot of people who, Matt, probably can't afford your services. I mean, they want to hire you, but they just can't. And so that's where the heart is of just, hey guys, this is, if you want to take an amazing picture this week, here's my number one spot this week. And then next week, do it again. And you can just start having a top 52 countdown of the DFW area of where you take pictures. And then, or maybe you do that once a month, and then once a week, you do a tip, hey guys, you ever have lighting issues? This is how you solve it, and then the next week you do a video tip where hey guys, you guys ever taken a video? This is the tip, and so you're just providing that value on the front end. And ultimately, when it's time for their big day or big moment and they want to capture it, they're going to remember Matt provided value in advance. I took a ton of pictures. Maybe they hashtag you, and ultimately they're the ones who are lifting you up, and it's not you yourself, So let's go around one more time. I haven't had a moment to check on Facebook Live if anybody's commenting there. But if you are on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, we're going to do a time of prayer. So if you have prayer requests, just go ahead and drop them in the comment section. And we will make sure that we as a group cover them in prayer. But we're going to have about another 4 or 5 minutes of just kind of comments or thoughts to wrap this up. And then we're going to move out of the live and the recorded portion and go into prayer. So I'm going to mute. If anybody has any comments, go ahead and just drop them in, okay? That includes everybody here who's watching. You guys can just.
Well, I have sometimes, I feel like, I always pray and ask the Lord, help me to groom this dog, the way that will make their mommies and daddies happy. And one day I just felt like the Lord told me that it's not always about that. It might be something with the mommy or daddy that they might need an encouraging word, or they might need a smile from me, because you never know what they're going through. You never know what they've been through. So I just, always have to think about, them as far as like, when they come into my shop, if they're happy or they're sad, or, I just, what's wrong? Are you okay? And they'll just tell me everything, and we'll wind up praying or, believe in God for something. So it's not always just about the grooming, I just feel like the Lord told me that it's, you come in contact with people, and sometimes it's because he puts them there for you to pray for them or pray with them or believe something or share something with them to encourage them, give them a smile. So love their dog or something like that.
Yeah, that's totally true. That's the back half of Ephesians 2:10. Everybody, most people know the front part where it says, you're God's masterpiece or you're God's workmanship. And so a lot of us know that, but the back half of that says, to do good works that God, he created long ago. So before you even knew what your gifting was, God put people who were going to come across your gift, and he wants you to do a good work for that person, to that individual, to that business, whatever it is, you know. And so,
Yep, I agree.
Leslie, Matt, Dennis, any kind of closing out thoughts before we move into prayer time?
Not on my side.
I think it's important what you had said. I think that's a good thing to highlight earlier, that not every client and not every customer or whatever is going to be yours. I previously, when I was working retail, there was, I worked at Nebraska Furniture Mart. Some of you guys might know it locally. And they, the Dallas branch of Nebraska, that a year, 2 years ago alone, they did just over $1 billion of business, just that one store. They did great, right? And out of all the stores, the Dallas store had the best salesman, the best sales guy. His name was Steve, right? And Steve was the best sales guy of every single store that they owned, right? He was the best, and he was at our store. One thing, you know, that I've learned from working there, you know, because I feel like God puts you in every position that you're at. God puts you there for a reason, whether it's to learn, whether it's to gain friendships and relationships, no matter what, God kind of puts you there. Well, one thing that I definitely learned is that even Steve doesn't get every single client, every single customer. Even Steve doesn't, you know, sell every single person that he talks to. You know, there are just some people that you're not going to get the business. There's just some people that are going to say, you know what, I'm going to take my dog somewhere else to get groomed. Or some people are going to say, you know what, I'm going to use, you know, honest toothpaste instead. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be something. And then second thing that I think that I've learned as well is that we kind of touched on it, we kind of didn't, but I know definitely with Dennis and with Jordan, you guys kind of touched on it yourselves, but didn't really speak about it. Dennis really talked about how he is as a customer and a client, how he values his time, and if you're wasting his time, he said, "Okay, I'm done." Right, and he's done. And he even talked about how if I don't want to buy it, I'm not going to buy it. Same thing with Jordan, how he said, you know what, I could take 6 months to buy something. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. Where one thing that I've learned over the years of selling is that there are different types of customers. You have driver customers who are going to drive that sale and say, I know what I want to get. I've done the research. I know what I want. And if you don't have it, I'm going to go to the next store that does have it. You know what I'm saying? And then you also have analytical customers who will spend 6 to 10 months before they purchase something because they want to do the best research. But then you'll have amiable customers, where those are people that you could probably talk into a sale. You probably talk to them. Those are people that you probably like the most. If you're an amiable person, you probably like them the most. And then one thing that I've learned is that depending on what type of buyer you are, that is the person that you sell best to, right? You know, for me, I'm a pretty amiable person. I like talking to people. As you can probably tell, I do enjoy talking a lot. And I sell the best to people who like to talk. Over time, I've learned how to adapt into different types of selling, because I've had to learn, okay, this guy is a researcher, so let me give him the best info and knowledge I can. I can't do that to a driver. I cannot be the guy to give them the best knowledge, because then that to them, that's wasting their time. You know, so definitely learning about different types of people that like to purchase. I think learning what type of person you are is very important. So for me, like I said, I'm an amiable person, right? And that's what I've learned about myself. So if you know what type of person you are, then I think you'll do well in business. So, you know.
Very well said. Very self-aware. That's good. So, all right. So I'm going to take off.
That we want to talk about when you're listening to your current customers is the risks. What if they don't listen to current customers and really operationalize business in that way?
Yeah. Before we just jump to the obvious risk, kind of one of the biggest thoughts I had was, is if I'm not listening, if I'm not staying in that pursuit of the customer, somebody's pursuing my customer. And somebody's listening to their complaint. Somebody's listening to it. Or quite frankly, if they're not listening, they're actively telling somebody. And in any relationship, and again, we're talking about business, but think about